Sure to me.
Yes, he did.
Well, if you don't know what fair is, you can't make
Donnybrook is made possible by the support of the Betsy and Thomas Patterson Foundation and the members of 9PBS.
In the words of Adam Sandler, so drink your gin and tonica and smoke your marijuana. Happy 420. What a day to do Donnybrook. Thank you for tuning in tonight. And joining us, Bill McClellan, founder and still a columnist at the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. Wendy Wiese from KTRS. Ray Hartmann, another founder from Substack. Great column this week. And Joe Holleman from the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. I'm usually sitting there, but it's him. I'm not Charlie. You probably figured that out. Another court, well, I guess first court date for Kim Gardner, although I guess she's had some other ones too, so to speak. This hearing, whether to proceed on the Attorney General's attempt to oust her from office. I'm sure we've all been following that. Day-long hearing on Tuesday. Joe, do you think she's in a better place now than she was before? Kind of the same place or worse place?
I think this hearing did her no favors at all. Number one, everybody was kind of wondering if she was going to show up or not, considering that just this week, or a little bit before that, there was a murder trial in St. Louis Circuit Court, and a prosecutor did not show up. Just didn't show up. Not showed up late, just wasn't there for a murder trial.
And you need a prosecutor to try somebody for murder, correct?
So when someone is saying you're not running your office well, to several days before you're going to appear in front of a special appointed federal judge, and you have a case where your whole office failed to show up for a murder case, you're not doing yourself any favors. Then once they got into the hearing, realized that basically, as she has done with requests for years, especially from the media, just ignored a number of subpoenas, just didn't answer them, of we want this information, we want that information, to the point where the judge basically said, go into a room and work this out, and you've got to give them some records. But, you know, the idea of, and I think what I find sort of not amazing or incredible, but it brings questions to my mind, we've been doing this for 5 years. And had it not just been some horribly unfortunate events, specifically the young lady from Tennessee, would this have just kept going, or did it come to a point to where people could no longer ignore it? Because the idea of not showing up for trials, not holding people on proper bonds, has been going on forever. Requests for records from the media and other places have been ignored. There's defense attorneys who are saying, we never got the evidence from her office. You have to cancel these cases. This is not a case of we don't like how you're running your office. This is a case of you're not running your office. And that's an entirely different world there. So I think this whole week showed, if anything, it certainly helped the Attorney General's case.
Well you know, I usually like spectacles in courtrooms, but this is an example of it can't go forward. I mean, the trial, Andrew Bailey, you know, he needs all, like you say, Joe, he needs all these records, and this is an office that can't keep up with things as they are. The idea that suddenly the circuit attorney's office is going to be looking up records and getting everything ready to go. I mean, we need somebody to step in and tell Ms. Gardner, you have to leave. I mean, we can't go on for a couple of months with the circuit attorney's office suddenly being busy with something else. I mean, this just can't go on anymore.
Well, and it has become a regional crisis because I'm a broadcaster, so math is not my strongest suit. But this is pretty basic math. If you have tourists and businesses who believe that the city of St. Louis has descended into such a level of chaos that the prosecutor's office is not doing its job, basic math, you're going to have a real financial problem down the road. And so that's why this is urgent. This is so urgent, and it has to be addressed in some way.
Well, a lot of the problems, defending some of the things you're saying is just, I'm not signing on for that job. But the fundamental issue I have is this one I've had all along, is that this is just, it's not the role of a process of the Attorney General, especially an unelected one, but even if he was elected, it's not, this is political. And I think that it would set a terrible precedent, and I think that I have a sense that at some point there's going to be enough pressure on her that maybe something will happen. I can't say it for sure, but I do not think this is a justifiable process. I think it's a politically motivated one, and I think it's fundamentally.
Can you
I
also
don't think the end justifies.
Then it works. I mean,
I don't think
the something.
Where I guess I disagree is I don't think the end justifies the means. I think it's politics, and I don't agree with this process.
Is she guilty of political grandstanding? I mean, come on, of course she is.
I would say no to that because she's swimming upstream.
Yeah.
I don't think this is not about the grandstanding. This is about, I guess, technically trying to stay in office.
I think she has made herself a political, she has made herself a political victim, and she's not.
But that's different. I don't think she's grandstanding. She has people
she's
that voted
trying
for her.
politically grandstand. She just doesn't have anyone standing next to her anymore. And I think that's what's real clear. But
she was elected.
She trying to hold a job, and she was elected. But I'll go back when they say this is political. Of course it's political because they're all politicians, and I always love it when people start accusing politicians of playing politics. That's what they do. But however, when you say, well, this is an inappropriate way or whatever, no, there actually is a process by which the state can remove a county official.
Correct.
It's not like they came up with this yesterday and said, let's come up with a way to get rid of Kim Gardner. They have used this process before, including to remove a prosecutor, to remove the license collector of St. Louis some 30 years ago. So the idea that they just sat around some smoky room and said, how do we get rid of Gardner?
I didn't say
is not true. But you said there is a process when the wheels have all come off the wagon that somebody can step in and say, this needs to be fixed.
Okay, one thought here. I still think that this judge, at some point, between now and I guess September 25th, when this trial would begin, could very well call everybody in and say, like, you know what? What you are trying to throw her out of office on does not meet the standard of what you're saying is going on. I.e., I agree with you. Horrible job. She should never be reelected. But I think the way the law is structured, or this process is structured, that they don't meet the standard to throw her out. Now, I'm not being the judge, and I'm not saying that I believe that, but I do believe that there is a real chance. And I think in that hearing, one thing that did happen was her attorneys were basically saying, listen, everything you're saying is true, Your Honor. We're not prepared. We didn't do any of this. But so what? If you
want to talk about the process, and I think you're right, there is a process. You got to win at that process. My sense is, and if they do, fine. But I would say that from what I've been told by lawyers who know way more than I do, that their chances of winning are probably less than 50-50. Now, but if they win, fine. I mean, I just think that most of this was motivated, by, I don't even think they care if they win. I think they just wanted to do it to do it.
Real quick, Ray.
No, the state did not want to jump into this. They jumped into it.
Oh, that's where we'll disagree. They love doing this.
Exactly why they got into this is because worldwide something happened that focused all attention on the abysmal
Real quick, we're going to move on. We're going to move on.
Gardner, Ray.
We're going to move on, but one question for Ray. 50-50 on whose side? You said 50-50 on the state side or 50-50 on Kim Gardner?
50-50, well, 50-50 is in the middle, but that it was
Kim Gardner. Less than
50-50 of Bailey winning.
Okay, all right.
That's what I heard, and I'm not predicting it myself, and no, I understand, and I never said the process didn't exist.
Meanwhile, in St. Louis County, we've got 4 municipal mayors say, like, hey, how about we combine the prosecutor's offices of the county and the city. And, you know, old Alvin would have said, like, heck no, what are you talking about? But new Alvin kind of said, like, you know. So maybe that's the Kim Gardner effect. Wesley Bell his comments on it were not like, no, never. You know, it shouldn't happen. I represent the county and the city should represent the city. No, it was kind of like, combine the prosecutor's office. Wendy, what do we? Is Wesley looking beyond maybe being the potentate prosecutor?
I think he might be. And former longtime county prosecutor Bob McCullloch was on with McGraw this morning, and the first thing he said was, "This would not be happening if it weren't for the Kim Gardner crisis." You know, but the mayors of Manchester, Brentwood, Bridgeton, and Wildwood. Right.
Crime hotbeds, baby.
Crime hotbeds. But they say that this is as we just said, this is a regional crisis. And what's interesting, though, is they want to fold this into the HB 301, the proposal to have a special prosecutor, which, of course, Kim Gardner is vehemently opposed to. But they're saying this is like the middle point. And Wesley Bell he is playing coy, which is smart, which is really smart. First thing I thought of was the old Steve Stanger, Lyda Cruisen, if we were going to be better together. Kind of sounded like that. But, you know, Wesley Bell is a very smart guy, and he is going. I think he's going to make the most of this, and good for him. But I'm not opposed to this plan at all.
Well, Wesley Bell, as a black politician in the St. Louis area, the highest thing you can aspire to is the first congressional district and be congressman. And if Wesley Bell were able to be prosecutor for the city and the county, in 4 years, 6 years, he'd take on Corey Bush and he would become the congressperson for life.
For life.
I don't think it's got any. I guess we can speculate. You were just mad at me for speculating about motives in the state. I think I don't really question any. I mean, you know, maybe I will say I think it's a promising idea, and I've been for regionalism. I wasn't for better together for a lot of reasons, but regionalism is, I think, a good thing, and there is a template in the city and county, a precedent for the city and county of all places in policing to work together. There's a major case squad, which is the city and county. There's Regis, that they have combined city and county. I always forget the
but we have a city police department and a county police department. And I'm always leery about changing a system because of one person.
No, but
and Kim Gardner's
well,
a disaster.
I don't necessarily agree with the assumption that it has to be because you don't like this particular circuit attorney. I think there's an argument to be made, the same one that there is for a major case squad, that the county and city, and 911's the other one, where they combine forces. I'm not sure that we wouldn't be better off with a larger, better funded, better everything, whatever, we take the personalities out, having a prosecutor and treating this as a regional thing. Keep in mind, the city's not the only place we have crime. You know, there's crime, a lot of crime in the county. And so I think having it centralized is at least an idea worth exploring, and I think that's Wesley's basically saying that.
Well, and I do think, though, it does come from the crisis of Kim Gardner.
Sure it does.
No good idea ever comes into place just because it's a good idea. That's not how America ever works on anything. It has to be a good idea that's sitting around waiting for a crisis to happen, and here we go. We have one. But I, like you, Alvin, thought it was interesting that, you know, Prosecutor Bell was kind of, well, you know, I don't know, but then said, you know, people have talked about a regional approach. Kind of just threw that out there. You know, so now all the great, I wonder, because all the big thinkers, the big idea forward thinker folks, we're going to see where they go now, because now they're saying, well, here's a good idea. We talked about this city, county, regional cooperation. How about we start with this? It'll be interesting to see where everybody falls in that question.
Do we know where the four mayors were on Better Together? Do we have any idea?
That's a good question.
Could this be the old camel's nose under the tent?
And that was, you know what? That's exactly what I thought, Wendy.
Yeah.
But it was just, I gauged my own reaction. And I said, like, why am I not vehemently opposed to this? Because in the past, I would have been vehemently opposed
Well, if we were
to
going to
that.
have the prosecutors merged, the next logical step is the police departments merge.
Yep.
Well, maybe, but you can also, there are places, the medical examiner, that kind of, you don't necessarily have, the biggest problem with Better Together, as many, was being rammed down people's throats by the state.
And there would be,
that was
right
an
now,
entirely different
okay,
thing.
just real quick.
By the
Right
outstate.
now,
Right.
because of the situation we have with the circuit attorney's office, it seems like there's no one out there that would have something to say negative about this possible merger. They're there. And I think there were powerful people within the county and the city that don't want to have any part of each other. I think that element is still there.
There may be.
And this
There
is
may
just
be.
kind of like being glossed over
Doesn't bother
by
me.
the fact. All right, you brought up Bob McCulloch, who I really don't care to hear from anymore, but his brother has been appointed the prosecutor in St. Charles County. Bill, good choice?
Yeah, I think it's a great choice. And the main reason I think so is Joe McCulloch is 66 years old. And I think that when you're appointing someone as a caretaker position, it's nice to have it be somebody who's, like my problem with Andrew Bailey, for instance, when Parson nominated him, is suddenly Bailey is going to use this as a political jumping point, and Joe McCulloch is too old to be looking at, like, I think I'll run in 4 years. So I think it's a great choice, and I think it also speaks very highly of the St. Charles County Executive, Steve Aldermen, that he's able to do this. I mean, there's nobody in the city who's stepping forward and taking care of the problems with the circuit attorney's office. So I think that Steve Aldermen deserves a lot of credit for being decisive and for making this particular choice.
I agree with Bill.
Thank you.
No, really. Perfect kind of person to put in a job like that on short notice and do 3 years, run the office like you best think fit without any eye towards some bigger office. And so,
Right.
and I think they're drawing the parallel between Bailey and McCulloch, or what I would do too. A younger guy is like, well, I can be attorney general, and then I can
Then
be
be
this,
governor.
and I can be
Right,
that.
right.
Well, McCulloch said, how about I do 3 years, do a crackerjack job at this, and
Then I go
then I'm
fishing.
kind of done, and I go fishing and get some clients, you know.
And get a nice pension.
Nice
And
pension.
It all works out.
You just touched on something really, really important. Would we have had this crisis in the circuit attorney's office in the city of St. Louis if we had some of those older generation, those leaders of yesterday, like a Bill Clay or a...
Well, you're right, Wendy, and the answer is we would not have had this problem. Right. You know, because this is a prosecutor's office, Tim Lomar.
Right.
And he was popular and reelected, and the county executive
said, hey.
just said, hey, we're moving on.
Right.
And there's nobody in St. Louis with the authority or the status or the gumption to have done that with Kim Gardner.
I disagree with the entire spirit of this. If I can speak for some of us that are younger,
Really?
I don't know why.
Younger than
I was thinking that too.
They're younger than us.
How did you get that appointment, right?
Well, no.
How did you get that appointment?
Drugs. No, I have no idea. Let me just kind of channel the early days of Donnybrook. No, I disagree with this reverse ageism. First of all, I don't think that somebody being older is either an asset or a liability. I don't think it has anything to do with it. As far as I think I share maybe the reference Mr. Reid made. Another McCulloch doesn't particularly excite me. We don't know. He's his brother, so we don't know if he's. I will say this. If he comes to the job of prosecutor informed by the tragic killing of his police officer father by someone who demographically resembles a lot of the defendants, that was not, which means young black men. I don't think that was a strong suit of Bob McCulloch's. We can disagree. I think he wasn't. I think Wesley Bell is a dramatically better prosecutor than McCullocch. And so I'm not, and I want to do Alvin a favor by saying I don't, because he'll be happy that I don't like his choice. And I seriously don't, again, we don't know. We'll see what kind of prosecutor Joe McCulloch is, but I don't think that we should be all excited about it in advance. Let's give him a chance. But I don't think it's so great.
I think
I don't think it's so great.
That's ridiculous.
Give him a chance.
I'll give him a chance.
So of all the prosecutors you could have criticized tonight, the one you're going to pick is the one who hasn't started their job.
I just said, I said, give him a chance. You've all ordained him the best choice in history. We don't know how he's going to do.
How about so far not one?
How about an excellent choice? Right?
Well, and
best choice.
I think it's a choice that Alvin does a lot of good stuff out there, but let's see if this is one.
I think, first of all, I think the majority of people who appear before him are going to be white in St. Charles County.
Well, that may be.
All right. So
as I say,
I don't know that
he's just his brother.
All right.
I just don't think it's anything to celebrate.
Right. And then two, here's the problem I had with the release. Steve Elman also took the opportunity to insult everybody in St. Louis, and McCullоch used to be a Democrat, and he changed Republican, and he felt the need to explain why he changed, and I found that to be very insulting. I don't know anything about Joe McCullоch, but I did not like that press release, because why are you taking cheap shots? It's not necessary.
Well,
so,
and you're taking your cheap shot at Bob McCullоch. So I'm sorry, Ray. I'm sorry, Ray. But you defend
Joe or Bob?
No, Bob.
All right.
You defend as sacred. Yeah, you defend as sacred the voters who continue to reelect Kim Gardner. A lot of voters reelected Bob McCulloch.
Did I ever say to Bob McClellan to resign?
No.
I voted.
Look
for
at his office. Look at the way he ran his office. You can't compare the two. I'm just saying.
Well, he got beat by
But,
Wesley Bell.
All right.
The
But
voters.
not for many years.
The voters fired him.
Not for many
About
years.
60
He
to
was
40.
there for a long
Never
time.
once, even when I disagreed with the Jack in the Box thing, all those things, I never said that Bob McCulloch should resign or
Well,
be
that's
kicked
because
out. He was elected. Nobody ever questioned the
his
legitimacy.
assistants weren't
all right, we're
leaving
running out of
the
time.
office in
But I
droves.
never
We're
said
running out
she
of
wasn't
time.
I thought it was
legitimate.
a cheap shot.
We're running out of time. All right.
Accurate.
We got 14 alder people. We have our first woman president of the Board of Aldermen. Everything is supposed to be happy down at City Hall, but Sharon Tice wasn't that happy. And that was, as all of us were sworn in, and here we go on a bright new path. Ray, what did you think about how it all went Tuesday at City Hall?
Well, I was thinking of the wise words of Joe Holleman, who once said, "Are you surprised politicians are acting like politicians?" I mean, that's
recent,
all it is.
wasn't it?
I don't remember when he said that. Oh, there he is. No, I think that
You're so young, I'm surprised you couldn't recall.
I'm surprised I'm going to make it to my next sentence. No, I think that it's politicians being politicians, and in the case of Megan Green, it can be. Obviously, I didn't appreciate the reference. What was it, White Becky?
Yeah.
White
I mean,
Becky.
I didn't think that was called for. But I mean, Megan Green it's sort of to the victor goes the spoil thing, and there, it will be interesting to see how they govern in the next 2 to 4 years, whatever. But and I mean, I don't begrudge Sharon Tice saying what she wants to say. It's politicians being politicians, and there's not much more political stuff that goes on than divvying up the leadership positions on something like a Board of Aldermen. So it didn't bother me on either side that they were fighting it out. That's what they should do.
Well, all right, I'm being maybe a stickler, but if you kind of openly campaign, I'm going to be a thorn in your side, how could you be upset when they kind of took care of that problem?
Well, I think you can be, as I say, everybody, now there's 14 of them, and that they're going to do their thing. Let's see what happens.
I never thought that I would say anything in support of Sharon Tice, because I remember her first time before she got voted off the island years ago. But I think it's nice to have some resistance to the progressive movement in the city.
Totally agree.
And Sharon Tice is that for sure.
Well, okay. I didn't take away that this was this revolt against the progressives. Her line was, if you come after the North Side, you're going to come after me, and then I'm going to come after you. What did that have to do with progressive politics?
Well, maybe nothing, but she is just sort of like the new sworn enemy of Megan Green.
So but it's good theater. What's wrong with that?
Abundantly clear that she is not one of them. So why wouldn't she draw that line in the sand?
Okay, I hear you, but this kind of like we talked about before. There's going to be this wave of just crazy progressive politics going on in the city.
Well, that was kind of what Megan was promising.
I'm not
Tuesday.
signing on to that.
Well, that's what she was promising.
It's one thing for politicians, they make these promises, and this is not just this group of politicians. This goes back time immemorial. They make the promises, then they get in the office, and then they sort of think they're done now, because now they've actually got to get the bills through. So the Sharon Tyuses or the Joe Volmers or the people who know how the game gets played, you find out it doesn't work as easy as that. And a lot of these folks who are fire and brimstone progressives, if you will, find out they're going to have to work with somebody somewhere, and they're going to have to, if not make Sharon Tyus happy, stop her from screaming at them.
But that's the way it should work.
All right, we got to get out.
Progressive politics aren't all crazy.
Okay,
I want
we
to
got to
see
get
how
out.
they deal with
It's not
it.
working out
Thank
so
you.
far.
I will say this, that if somebody white calls somebody a black anything, folks would be marching on City Hall, so that shouldn't be passed over so easily. So if you want to send us a letter, send it to Donnybrook, care of 9 PBS, 3655 Olive Street, St. Louis, Missouri, 63108. Send us an email to donnybrook@9pbs.org and a tweet to #DonnybrookSTL. You can give us a call at the comment line, 314-512-9094. And check us out at your favorite podcast spot, Apple, Spotify, Google Play, or TuneIn. Importantly, you can still get Donny Bash tickets. It is almost June. It'll be here before we know it. June 15th of this year. Send an email to 9pbs.org/DonnyBash, or actually visit that site, and you can get your tickets there. Always a pleasure having Joe Holleman on the scene. Lively debate whenever you're around. Hey, don't get in too much trouble tonight on 420. Hang in there, especially for our second show. We're going to be talking about the St. Louis County Library. Boy, who would have thought that was controversial? Have a good night.
Donnybrook is made possible by the support of the Betsy and Thomas Patterson Foundation and the members of 9 PBS.